Good morning. This is Blaine Pardoe, and welcome to Writers Fix Problems. Today we're going to be talking with Declan Finn about his series that starts with book one in Hellspawn. For those of you who have been watching the show when it was in its previous incantation over on the Next Gen Network, this is the second time I've interviewed Declan Finn. I also spent the weekend with him and his charming wife at Basecon, and we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. I'm a huge fan. I'll preface this before I get into the review, Declan. I'm a big fan of the Harry Dresden series. I got hooked early on in it. The problem is, and this is no offense to the author, he's not cranking them out fast enough. And that's okay because he's doing a good job. But what that means is I've got this gap I had to fill, and I think your series on St. Tommy is really kind of filling that gap for me. So
I have to say, as a Dresden fan, yes, and real quick. I feel that if the man had keyboards for hands, he probably couldn't crank them out fast enough, to be clear.
Yeah. Wow. It's always a problem when you're successful, but it's fortunate because we now have something to fill that gap. So let me dive into the review of this and torture Declan a little bit while he listens to me rant and rave about his book. Declan Finn has gone where authors and angels fear to tread. Hellspawn is a contemporary urban magic novel with a fascinating twist, where the Harry Dresden series tends to focus on magic and monsters hidden in modern-day shadows. Finn has opted to intertwine demons with the magic of the Catholic Church and has done so with panache. Finn's prose is crisp. He has dialogue that feels like real-world conversations, which are necessary to kind of suck you into the story. The lead character is not some paladin, but is an everyman who is strangely easily identified with. Finn's handling of the Catholic faith is perfect. While I'm not a religious person, I found it easy to understand and an interesting aspect of the story. It's definitely a unique twist. The lead character in the story is a police detective who is also a saint. And we'll leave that there because I don't want to ruin the book for you. He's fighting demonic possession, serial killing, and the corruption of evil in New York City, a city that practically oozes evil. And while you may flinch at the religious aspects of this book, let me just say they are not preachy as much as wildly entertaining. Finn has crafted a story that is bold and daring and actually fun to read. I have to respect the author in that he thinks big and he swings for the fences. Without ruining the plot, let me just drop one line to you that should hook you on this. Demonic possession on a large scale on the infamous Rikers Island. If that doesn't sink you in, I don't know what will. There, you don't need to be inspired to read the novel if you don't find that intriguing, and I think you will. This is the first book in a series, so I encourage you to jump in with both feet and wade through the holy water. So with that, I'd like to welcome in Declan Finn. Good to talk to you again.
Same here, Blaine.
I hope you found my review fair.
Yes. Trust me, it's a lot more fair than some of the others I've read.
Well, the others that were negative got it wrong. This was actually a lot of fun. I'm not a religious person, but you've kind of combined elements here of Harry Dresden with The Exorcist, and anybody that thinks that's not possible, I challenge you to go pick up Hellspawn. It really is. This was a fun book. So you had this published by another publisher and have transitioned over to a new publisher. So
Oh,
what's
yeah.
the background on this?
Well, background. Where would you like to start? The background started in 2001. I had a college course called Christian Spirituality and Mysticism, which is nowhere near as pretentious as that sounds. And one class focused on the miraculous abilities of certain saints, including the ability to levitate, the ability to bilocate. At that point, my first thought was, okay, slap a cape on this guy and he's a superhero. And then they mentioned, oh yes, the ability to smell evil. Okay, this guy is now a cop. And so you have a cop who is going to be a saint, so you have to have a possessed serial killer. And that was basically the premise of book one. And when my last publisher, Silver Empire, wanted a new IP from me, I gave him 3, and this was one. He immediately jumped on it. And it was originally going to be 6 books long. And by the time I got to book 6, it's like, do I continue the series? I can get 6 more books out of this. And my publisher said, well, it's one of our better selling series, so by all means. So it just took off. This was one of the first series I had to outline because my publisher wanted to know that I knew where I was going. Granted, I still made up half the book as I was going along because I am, quote, a discovery writer if you're pretentious, a pantser if you're not. And some of the parts of one outline wound up in book 2. There was one section that was supposed to be an entire chapter of talking to people, pounding the pavement, doing interviews and cop stuff. I got bored and I said, okay, to heck with this, car bomb. So that's where that part came from. And frankly, so that's where this book has come from. Originally, it was going to be just plain urban fantasy. And I did research into serial killers when I was younger because at the time I thought they were interesting. Then I discovered they all just have mommy issues. And then for this book, I started doing research into demons, wound up with a method of killing. And it's like, hey, boss, I know you wanted urban fantasy. How does horror suit you? Oh, horror's fine. And we were off to the races.
So now it's being published by a new publisher, though.
Silver Empire, the last publisher, basically got killed by COVID. It was a 2-person operation. Technically 3. They had a contract editor just for me because I was throwing books at them faster than they could edit them. And but COVID killed their routine so hard that they had to shut down. And they were already running 2 other businesses, including a dojo, which doesn't quite cut it during COVID. So one of the businesses had to go. And it was immediately picked up by my current publisher, Tuscany Bay Books, run by Richard Paolinelli. And he got the published books up and running within a month or 2. And the other 4 books I had written were out by the end of the year.
That's great. Yeah, we've had Richard on the show before to talk about some of the stuff he's writing. And I think people don't understand when you're dealing with a publisher, they usually are writers too. And I've seen that with Jason Anspaugh, who's done the stuff I do with Wargate. He is a writer as well. And that's kind of cool because they at least understand it's not just a business decision. It's also a creative decision for them. So I always enjoy that. So that's great. And the series, how many books now are in the series?
There are 12 St. Tommy novels, 5 short stories. I'm probably going to just do an anthology by the time I'm done. There may be 2 other books out there because there have been people who said, "Ooh, can you do this? Ooh, can you do that?" It's like, I guess. But haven't gotten around to writing even more yet. I figured I was going to stop at 12 because everyone's going to be sick of me at 12. Apparently not. Who knew?
Hey, and the covers are pretty striking too. So I mean that helps.
Oh, yeah.
People always tell me it's like covers aren't that big of a deal, and I'm like, covers are a huge deal. They always suck people in.
Yeah.
And
Well, the first 9 were done by Steve. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. Bolio or Bulio? I don't know. It's anyway. So those were the first 9. The last number 10 was done by a acquaintance, a fellow writer of mine named Michael Gallagher, who also does Catholic urban horror. And the last 2 were done by an author, N.R. Lapointe, who just does fun and weird novels.
well, it's cool. So yeah, it's interesting too that you've kind of gone down this path of combining police detective with kind of I don't want to say Catholic dogma, but Catholic tenets, and it's a natural fit. Obviously, I think that's important. But I'm kind of curious: have you had any feedback from police officers about the way you've kind of covered police work, etc.? Because I write true crime books with my daughter, and one of the things I always find interesting is when it's always rewarding when a police officer comes up and goes, yeah, you kind of covered that right, in terms of how we looked at it. Have you had any feedback from law enforcement at all on your stuff?
Well, I've had a review that said, I am part of a police family, and this guy nails it. I also had a second review that insisted that I had to be a police officer or had family members who were police officers. And I hate to break it to them, but no, I just do research. And a lot of, I don't know if you ever heard of Eddie Conlon. He did a book called Blue Blood. It's a nice little doorstop that was very heavy on, yes, this is how boring police work can get. And I used 2 or 3 other books as well to do research on it. And some of it was just plain old, simple, common sense. Oh, look, X person died. Now we start digging into any enemies this person had, any enemies the family had. Are there crazy family members? That sort of thing. And that was a lot of the work of just, how do I narrow it down to, well, who the killer was?
Well, and it was, there's some distinct twists to this because you've got a demon on the loose who's actually stalking the protagonist of this book in a nasty sort of way. And covering the serial killer stuff is in there. From a police perspective, they're looking for a serial killer, not a demonic serial killer. So I got to tell you, it really filled that Harry Dresden niche with me. Have you had similar feedback from other fans?
I've had a few people tell me that I'm a Catholic Dresden, a Catholic John Ringo, a Catholic Larry Correa. So yeah, I've had some feedback in that general direction. I'm not quite as snarky as Jim Butcher or Harry Dresden, although Tommy Nolan's partner comes close because, he's like, he was probably a few years away from a burnout when book 1 starts. So sarcastic is his default position. And then it's, so Tommy, this thing apparently threw knives at us with his mind. Would you like to explain what's going on here? And the fun part with the Catholic Dresden angle is most of the powers are on the side of the villains. Yeah, Tommy has a few tricks up his sleeve, but not many in book one. And even as he gets more tricks along the way, I find the more tricks he has, the more ways I get to beat him up, and he comes back for more. Because beating up the main character really does work for me. I get more unexpected results out of him. But so yeah, I've had those reactions.
I gotta tell you too, one of my favorite secondary characters was Tommy's wife, because she wasn't this shrinking violet, that backed down to me when gunfire erupts at the house. She's on her gun faster than Tommy's on his, and I thought that was kind of a neat twist because you almost picture the wife playing a more demurring role in this, and you quickly established it with action that no, she's not sitting back taking this. She's an active participant. And I thought that was really a neat way to do that.
Yeah. Well, I kind of figured that if she's a cop's wife, not only does she figure she has to be prepared for this, or, okay, not demonic serial killer, but, possibly the work following him home. And, she's a housewife who homeschools. She technically has more time for gun training than he does. If only because she doesn't have to fill out the amount of paperwork he does. But also, I don't know if I mentioned it in book one, but she's the person who arranges the church gun range trips.
I don't recall it in that book.
Okay, so it's probably a little bit later on. There were some things I made up as the book series went on that I don't think I can keep track of anymore.
That's a problem when you create a book series. You're creating canon that you have to live with.
Yep.
Now, have you had any reactions that are negative from fans, or not fans, but criticers? As I recall, you had a couple of stories that you shared with me before, and I was wondering if you seem to be a lightning rod, so to speak, for crazy people sometimes. I certainly feel like that with my bag of nut jobs out there from my former writing community in BattleTech, but you seem to be able to draw them too. I was wondering if you might share a little bit of what you've gone through.
Gee, the crazy people who have read my books and never dated me is a shorter list. That's a different comedy routine. But no, let's see. Negative reviews. I love the one guy who claimed to have been a cop, who gave the wrong kind of badge number, and he accused me of being a white nations list. Not a white nationalist, a white nations list, because of course he can't spell. And because I made MS-13 basically a side quest or a side villain. And it's like, I'm sorry, MS-13, their motto is rape, control, kill. These are not good guys. Right. And when they try to explain, oh, well, these guys are over in Long Island, it's like, dude, before the book came out, MS-13 killed 2 people like a mile from my house. Jeez. Which, yeah. And which at the time was where I set Tommy's precinct. I can say that now that I'm in a completely different state. And so it's like, wow, you got at least 3 things wrong in one review. Oh, I just love the reviews of the Holy Rollers who insist that I'm not sure what's better. I'm glorifying violence. It's like, have you read book 1? Tommy's medical bills alone are going to not glorify violence. Or, oh, he's so violent. He's so mean. I'm sorry. When MS-13 is shooting at him, would you like him to stop and offer them tea?
Or counseling.
Or counseling or spiritual direction? It's like, no, this isn't going to work. I'm sorry. Maybe when people stop shooting at him, we can have this conversation, but he doesn't get a lot of breaks in the course of any given novel. Now, could I have done things between novels? Sure, but they were whining about book one. Now, granted, I've also had someone who was confused. He didn't know what was going on. This was too unbelievable. But that was a review somebody left on book 7. It's like, and of course, this guy, leaving his review of book 7, said, well, in my writing course, it's like, oh, shut up. It's like, no, I love people who have read all the books, done all the writing courses, but have never written anything. And they know everything already, so you have to listen to them. It's like, 1, no, I don't. 2, I'm published. You don't like it, don't read me. But, and hell, the amusing thing with the Catholic dogma I use is, 1, I have more Protestant fans than I think I have Catholic fans, which is hilarious. Well, they look at it more like there is nothing that contradicts their faith. They're looking at it from, as C.S. Lewis called it, the mere Christianity point of view. And frankly, what I was doing, yes, I am Catholic. Yes, I go to church as often as I can. No, sorry, check that. I go to church every Sunday and every holy day of obligation. If I went as often as I could, I'd be going every day. So that's a different conversation. I go 60 times a year, period. And what I was doing with this book was what people do with adapting their role-playing games into a novel, where the Catholic Church has a whole bunch of rules. And I'm using them like any RPG manual. And I'm having fun with it. And throwing in gunfights every time it gets boring.
Well, I got to tell you, it seems like a really good approach. I would agree with you. I've had similar discussions. I'll get a review from some fan going, you violated a rule of the English language when you did blah, blah, blah. And it's like, look, I appreciate the fact you're whipping out something that your 7th grade teacher told you was a hard and fast rule, but I don't need rules lawyering when it comes to the English language. Part of being a writer is being able to kind of push the limits of those things. And I don't live within boundaries of certain rules per se. It is always amazing because there are people out there that think the English language is this absolute mathematical formula. It has to be followed. And if you don't follow it, it ruins the book for them. It's like, and some of this also comes from character dialogue because people do not speak perfect English. They don't. And it's part of how they operate and how they function in society. If you were to transcribe our conversation right now, it would not follow the rules of English. But that's okay. And it does drive some people nuts because they can't function when it doesn't fit that mold that they see, and it upsets them. I don't know how they get through life, honestly.
No, I don't either. But and on the flip side, you have to be sure that when you're writing, you have enough natural dialogue that, yes, everything flows together, but you can't do things that are, oh, this is the way people talk, but good luck trying to figure it out on the page. I've had some people try to recreate, oh, yeah, I've had people talk to me like this. That's nice, but they don't write letters like this, do they? And that's part of the problem. And yeah, my natural dialogue is, I tend to pick. I don't necessarily pick actors. I pick voices, and then I run each individual character through the voice filter. And that's how I usually come up with what everybody's saying. Um, Heck, the character of his partner, Al Packard, was based off of a family friend named Packard. That's why he's in the dedication. But, and running it through voice filters helps, A, make it sound natural, and B, they make everybody sound distinct. Which, again, also helps. I don't know.
Well,
I think I made my point.
oh yeah. Well, this is not the only series you're writing. You've also written. I know of at least one other series that you're writing. It's kind of a space opera thing. So I was wondering, what other series do you have out there?
Let's see. I have self-published a thriller series called Williams and Miller. Which is present-day techno thriller, shoot 'em up. I have a dystopia series that's probably going to stop at 2 books because I have a co-author at that, and he doesn't want to write books anymore. I have White Ops, which is a space opera. St. Tommy NYPD. I have, what else do I have? I have Love at First Bite, which is it is urban fantasy, vampire. It could be vampire romance, except I have too many explosions. And all of them went with the first half first half is a character-driven novel. The second half is everything is exploding and people are firing at us. Why? And I didn't outline that book for those books. It just happened that way. The Love at First Bite series is either going to be 8 books long, or the next 4 books is a series called Honeymoon from Hell. My publisher, Three Ravens Press, has not decided on that yet. Right now, I am between writing novels because yet 2 other publishers have a open call on short stories, and there are 24 anthologies the open call is for. So I'm looking at it going, okay, how many of these can I actually pump out? Usually I can do a short story in 2 days, or even an afternoon if I'm just like, oh, look, the deadline's out. So I've got that. I've got 3 IPs that have invited me to play in their universe. One of them is Steve Jackson's Car Wars.
Oh boy!
Hey.
Car Wars is an interesting one.
Yeah, and that's through Three Ravens Press. And the only reason I haven't started on that already is because I have never played Car Wars. I know nothing about it, and I have to actually read all the manuals.
Well, he just did a Kickstarter, I think, 2 years ago to reboot Car Wars.
Oh yeah, and like I said, the same publisher that has Love at First Bite has the IP, has the license to do the Car Wars. So yeah, I'm a little busy.
Yeah, no kidding. So now are you a full-time writer? Because I think a lot of people always are curious whether you're working a job full-time and doing this at night. I'm willing to bet you're a full-time writer.
I'm a full-time writer. If my brain turned off long enough for me to do something else, I would at least do a part-time job. Unfortunately, brain is on, brain doesn't turn off, and I would really like an option to turn it off from time to time.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's fun because I actually got to spend some time with Declan and his wife. We went to Basecon, and for folks, I've had a lot of questions about Basecon after I posted that I went there. It's a convention for science fiction fantasy of people who are not woke. Basically, it's the not woke crowd. It was a real fascinating time because you get to sit down with authors like Declan and myself, and there were other authors there, a lot of them, and talk to them about their work. A lot of one-on-one time. I was kind of curious, what did you enjoy the most out of Basecon this year?
Let's see. Mostly just hanging out with people, talking with you, being on a panel with Bill Willingham, just having people stop by, talk, and not have to worry about saying the wrong things in terms of the wrong political opinion, or worse, oh, look, you're a fan of this show, therefore you must be X, Y, or Z. It's like,
Oh yeah, it's hard, to go to a regular science fiction convention anymore because you have to watch everything that you say. You have to watch who you even engage with, which is very difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and some of the conventions are downright hostile to anyone with conservative values.
There are some conventions where if, you don't, if you are a fan of the wrong franchise, you're labeled a conservative and they get the lynch party out.
Yeah.
But then again, that all depends on, which fandom and who you're talking to.
Well, Watcher, do we have anybody out there who's got a question for Declan?
I just had one come by. He said, you mentioned that you offered 3 potential series to your old publisher and you picked St. Tim. Did you ever get around to mentioning the others?
I did not get around to the others. I remember the second one was going to be basically my version of Magic School, the Magic School genre, because one, it's popular, and two, my version would have been more like Magic College because adults, and I would have told it from the point of view of a professor. I forget why that one was not picked. The other one I had, what was the third one? Because one of them was an urban fantasy where my main character is working off a penance by killing demons for as long as his handlers in heaven tell him to. And it's one of those, yes, you were an evil bastard, but you literally died saving somebody. So, yeah, we're going to work off your penance the hard way. And let's just say that the main character's nickname is Jack. And that's the short version. The other one was something I touched on that was basically kind of superhero powered armor, only it's, his father was a rabbi of Prague, and there was a whole bunch of clay fragments in a chest that at one point he had to hide in the chest, and the clay fragments decided to form around him. So it's like, okay, cue the Black Sabbath. I am Golem Man. Anyway, no, they decided to go with the St. Tommy. Actually, that was 3 premises, and I only gave him 3, so I've mixed it up with something that came later. Oops. But no, I have not gotten around to writing them yet because I'm still trying to finish everything else. Wrap up White Ops. I have one more book to go in the Vampire series, and I'm hoping it's only going to be one more book because these things have a way of spiraling. Because my primary bad guy of the entire 4-book series was hidden behind the villain everybody thought was the bad guy for the first 3 books. So I'm hoping this doesn't turn into a 6-book series.
Well,
hey,
so
sorry, gents, I do have to interrupt real quick and take care of some administrative stuff. I want to welcome all the raiders coming over from Sean's channel. You've made this the best attended live stream we've had so far, with 76 watching over on YouTube and 7 watching over on Rumble. In case you're unaware, this is our Tuesday show with New York Times bestselling author Blaine Pardoe, where we interview multiple different authors. And hey, Declan, we do have a question for you, real quick, from the audience.
Shoot.
We had a ton of people that joined within the last 15 minutes.
Ah.
Do you want to give them the back page, like the back of the book review on St. Tommy, real quick?
Sure. Detective Thomas Nolan is a general good guy until the day he discovers that he basically has gifts from God. He doesn't know why, and it starts with a small bilocation miracle that I don't even know what happened, why, what, and huh? And that's also the day, unfortunately for him, that he winds up running into somebody in his police station who is possessed. And since demons aren't exactly confined to one location, by the end of the day, he has a murder victim who is horribly murdered. That's the short version. The long version is horrible. And it basically comes down to a wonder worker who is a cop who has to take out a possessed serial killer, preferably before the serial killer wipes out everybody he knows. And it's part of a plot to, well, destroy New York. Granted, the depressing thing is the plot to destroy New York looks like the current events in New York right now, but that's a different conversation. That's the short version. He is referred to as Saint Tommy. The series is called Saint Tommy NYPD, and everybody says, "Oh, so you're a saint? Great!" And Tommy keeps after explaining to people he is not a saint. He cannot be a saint because saints are dead.
Yeah.
And well, that becomes a running theme.
I wouldn't worry too much about any disagreement from the current crowd. This is our good friend Andrew, Legal Vices. Or no, did I say Andrew? Sorry about that. I'm tired this morning. This is our good friend Legal Vices crew. They're yeah. Anyhow, let's see. I think I had one more question here. Yeah, from TR Bow Turtle. Or Turbo Turtle, got it. What is the state of urban paranormal fiction these days?
Depends on your point of view, because there are some people who refer to urban fantasy as interchangeable with contemporary fantasy or modern fantasy. And that drives me crazy, especially when you have someone like Larry Correa, where half of his set piece his home base is in the backwoods of Alabama, referred to as, is it Alabama or Arkansas? I can't remember anymore. It's been a while. Versus, oh look, here you have Harry Dresden and Jim Butcher. Now granted, as Blaine pointed out, Jim Butcher is falling behind for the simple reason that he didn't have a workspace for 5 years. His house was under construction for that long. And the last time I heard an update, the last time I saw Jim Butcher at Dragon Con, he and his wife were going to play good cop and bad cop with the construction crew because they were taking so long. Then they saw the state of the house and decided to go bad cop, psycho cop, and he did not clarify which was which. So that was fun. But, he's back to writing now. The state of urban fantasy, it's okay right now. Like I said, you've got Larry, you've got Jim, you've got me, you've got, Daniel Humphreys, who, if you have not read him, right after you finish St. Tommy, go to his Paxton Locke novels, because if, God forbid, Jim Butcher drops dead tomorrow, as far as I'm concerned, Dan Humphreys could Brandon Sanderson the rest of the Dresden Files. If only because right now, his main character is a snarky, smartass wizard who spends a lot of his books getting the crud kicked out of him, and while continuing to mouth off. Does this sound like anybody? Like I said, it's going okay. It could be better. There could be more authors in the genre. I used to read P.N. Elrod. She was good for a while. No, she was okay. Then she decided to start attacking friends of mine, and it's like, goodbye, I have other people to read. The problem of the urban fantasy genre right now is there's too much overlap with making it, I'm not going to say even making it romance. I'm going to say there's too much overlap with making it smut. And if you read urban fantasy, you know who I'm talking about, or at least one person, you know who I'm talking about. And even some of the covers these days are driving me crazy. It's, oh, look, here, we're going to have one person in a pose with a background, and does this have anything to do with the rest of the book? Huh? With my covers, I had very little input. And because if I had more input, there would be more explosions on the covers. So I hope that answered the question.
It's good to hear that because, I talked to a friend of mine who's written a couple of Shadowrun books, and Shadowrun hasn't been selling like it used to at all. So it's good to hear that it's still a healthy genre out there. I assumed it was.
There are still plenty of people writing in it. Although my only question of Shadowrun is, did somebody do to Shadowrun what they did to BattleTech?
Yeah. Well, I can't go there or won't go there.
Okay.
I should, but I won't.
Well, and to be fair, you have in other places. So
Yeah. I went in and did my own thing, so it's safer ground now. Well, it's good. Well, Declan, what's next coming out from you? What are we going to see next on Amazon?
Next on Amazon should be the anthology entry Shoot the Devil 2, Dark Matter, which was obviously the sequel to Shoot the Devil 1. This time it's shooting demons in space. So, and I actually wound up doing a White Ops short story that turned into a St. Tommy crossover by total accident there. So that was fun. That should be out in October. The vampire books should be the next full novel, but that depends on how fast Three Ravens publishes them, and if they want all 4 books before they start working on them. If they want all 4 books, that'll probably set it back a little bit. Let me see, what else am I working on? I'm halfway through White Ops 6. Unfortunately, I've been halfway through White Ops 6 for about 4 years because I went back to work on other things. Yikes, what else am I working on? That's it for right now.
That's great.
Like I said, I've got the IP offers. I have research to do in the IP offers because it's like, yes, I've been invited to X, Y, and Z. I wish I knew anything about any of them.
Well, it's good that you got offers on the table. That speaks highly of the fact that you're a good writer, and you are. Folks, before we wrap this up, I do want to say make sure you click on the like button and please click on the subscribe button. We don't get paid to do this. I just bring on authors of books who I've read, and this was a great book. I highly recommend it. Declan, I'll be putting my review up on Amazon for you. I bought a copy of this. This wasn't a solicited review at all. I go out and buy the copies of the books where appropriate and actually read them. So that's what this is about. And we're going to, hopefully in the next few weeks, we're going to have somebody talking about mass killings. which is a fantastic book about, it really debunks the myth that guns cause gun violence and mass shootings. And that's going to be a lot of fun, folks. And so watch this space carefully. We'll be posting up when that interview is going to take place. Declan, I want to thank you for coming on. You've been most gracious to share your time with us. Please say hello to your charming wife.
I shall. And thank you for having me.
She was a lot of fun. Watcher, anything else from the fan base before we go off?
No, but we appreciate each and every one of you that came and rated here today, and thanks for being here.
If you don't mind, there's one question from the stream from Joshua Clark. Best way to get the St. Tommy books? Yes, you can order them directly from Tuscany Bay Books. Amazon is fine. We have, quote, gone wide, which just means we're everywhere as well as Amazon. We are not on Kindle Unlimited because Amazon has been playing games, because Amazon playing games. It's Tuesday. So yeah, you can get us can get the book almost anywhere. It's in paperback, it's in hardcover, it's in multiple electronic formats. And yeah, you could just write directly to Tuscany Bay Books. I think Richard Paolinelli, I think his email address is public. If you can't find him just by a Google search. For the record, Richard Paolinelli is not the guy who wrote the Aragon novels. Just to be clear, that has been a point of confusion. But no, you should be able to find him easily on Twitter and get his contact information from there, and just email him if you want to go that way. And if you want it immediately in electronic format, like I said, look me up. You can probably find it somewhere. Let me do something really, really simple. There is a nice little thing called Books to Read, and that, the link in the chat thread, should be a link to basically everything, and St. Tommy is part of everything.
All right. Well, thank you again, Declan. We'll have you back on when I read another one of your books.
All right. Look forward to it. Be well.
Have a great week.